Bob Pollock is here from the Extension Service. You can give him a call at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. It's 349-9227. Good morning.
Good morning.
We had Lisa Meadows in yesterday from Yellow Creek State Park talking about a number of things. And after she was off the air, she was telling us there's going to be a program coming at the end of June that they're going to be conducting with a tree expert. It turns out that it's not just ash trees, but hemlock trees are suffering badly, and they provide the stream cover that puts shade and cools the water, and it really... I guess what I'm saying to you is invasive insects have more than just the damage that they cause to trees, because now the fish in the streams are affected because the water heats up. It's really a chain of events, isn't it, when an invasive insect comes in?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't just, well, it's kind of that you do something and then there's a reaction to what you do or don't do. So when you have something like that come in that affects... and she probably was referring to the hemlock woolly adelgid, which is an insect. It's been around for a number of years. It takes a while for it to kill a hemlock tree, but inevitably, if there aren't any other, if nobody steps in, whether it be another parasitic insect or something like that that helps control that particular insect's population, and it's just left go, it will suck the sap out of the tree to the point where we get needle drop and then just a general decline of the tree until it dies.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what's been happening out in the forest, or any hemlock tree that's been left uncontrolled or not taken care of, and on a larger scale like that out in the woods where we have all these natural stands of hemlock, which typically are along streams and stream banks and in those areas, which do cast a lot of shade in our streams. When you start having those trees die off, then that's a problem. It changes the whole, it opens that up for sunlight that otherwise was pretty shaded.
Yeah. And that affects the fish that are in there, the water life.
Yeah. So, and of course, you could say, oh well, there's a lot of places along a stream where it's full sun all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. Although during the growing season, if we look at it that way, when the other deciduous trees are in leaf, in case of hemlock, their needles are on there year round, so they, it's a pretty stable situation there. So you build up a habitat that resides in that area because of those conditions. And then when you go outside of that, then that changes. Then there's other insects, organisms, all that reside there.
The whole dynamic
the fish
changes. Let's get a caller. Good morning.
Good morning. How you guys doing?
Very well.
All right. How are you?
Good. Hey, Bob, I wanted to mention something to you before I ask you my question. I wrote a letter to a local paper here recently, and your dad wrote me a little note thanking me. And I'll tell you what a gentleman. I've known your dad for years, and he says, "What, you should be so proud to have me as your dad."
I sure am.
Go ahead.
No, you're up, Joe.
Back to my question. I grow onions every year in my garden, and I'm pretty successful with what is called a keeper, a Stuttgart. But I try to plant the redwoods, and I never do very good. They don't get very big, and they don't get a real nice bulb on them. Is there something different that you have to do with the red onions?
Some of that may be varietal. So with onions, we get into short day, medium day, long day onions. And in some of those, there are charts that you can look up that show different varieties. We actually need a longer day, a medium to a longer day onion here. So if it happens to be a variety that's of that shorter day nature, sometimes that's what will kick those into, they may bolt or they may not form a good bulb on them because they're a shorter day variety. So if you go down south, that's kind of the zone where those shorter day onions perform the best. And then as we move north, we get into a medium day onion, and farther north, a longer day onion. And it has to do with the amount of light.
Say it again,
Say
Joe.
it again.
Is there different red ones? There's short day and long day red ones?
Yeah, there's different. Yeah, and you just have to look at the variety and how it's classified to make sure that you're getting one that will do well here. So
okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, so sometimes they will try to go to seed or bolt. They won't grow very long, so that they don't put on the bulb that they should before the number of hours during the day triggers them to go to seed.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening with mine.
Yeah, so that's a little, that gets a little tricky with those.
So you should look for medium day or long day.
And sometimes if you just go to the store and buy the sets that are there, sometimes that's what happens.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You're
Bye.
welcome.
There you go. And you can call Bob at 479-1160 or 349-WCCS. It's getting time people can put out their onion sets, can't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
Anything else?
We're quickly getting there. Well, any of those cool season crops can go out.
So you can put your broccolis out right now?
Well, we probably ought to wait a little bit on that.
Okay.
But definitely, and in this coming week, we're still going to get down into the 20s. So you almost need to have a little bit of protective cover or something, or just wait a little bit till we kind of get through this stretch here and see what we get into next week, because it looks like it's going to warm up, but at the moment, like Monday and Tuesday, it's still going to get down in the 20s. Once we get past that, it looks like it's going to be a little bit warmer. Let those soils warm up a little bit. If you have some sort of protected culture, and by that I mean you can make a little mini greenhouse, or you use fabric or plastic that you can cover your rows, or if you have things in beds where you've put in some hoops and you can cover that.
You can tent them.
Yeah. And that allows that to warm up, allows the soil to warm up, which is important.
Yeah.
So it's not just the air temperature, it's also the soil temperature. And so when it's too cold, the roots won't grow. Or we can get decay or rot in those plants. They get shocked, and that's the end of that. And the other thing, if we try to push it too much and don't have the right temperatures, both in air and soil, we can stunt the plants. So you can have them, if you seeded plants, you have them growing inside now, they have to be what we call hardened off or prepared to go outside and be in those elements.
Just like when people from Florida come up here in the middle of winter?
Yes,
Okay.
or
Their
vice
blood's
versa.
too thin?
Or we go down there and it's a sweltering hot. It's only 65 degrees. Because we're tempered to the other direction.
So you have to do that with plants.
So yeah, we've got to get them ready, because you've had them inside, they've been under lights, but it's not the same light as the outdoor sun is when we see it here. So you have to get them ready for that. And mostly what we try to do is just we don't water them as often, and we try to then maybe take them outside. The other thing is the wind. That air movement. Inside, we don't have any air movement. Now, sure, you can put a fan, actually. That actually can strengthen those plants, just having a little bit of air moving over those seedlings. You have to be careful with that, especially when they're really small. But as they start to grow and put on leaves, just a little bit of air movement with a fan on low can sway those plants back and forth, and so they build a bigger, stronger stem.
Build up their muscles.
Yeah.
Just a couple of minutes left, but I wanted you to talk about hot boxes, because people have those going right now too. The glass, they take an old window frame.
Yep. So
storm
cold
window,
frame. Yep.
Stick it in the ground.
Yeah, build a little frame, and it can be right down in the ground, or it can be built up like a raised bed in there.
Dig a hole.
Yeah, so you can dig a hole, and oftentimes initially when you establish one of those, especially if it's in the ground, you'll dig that soil up, loosen it up. You can even put people used to, when they also had animals more often, they would put raw manure in there, and they would work that into the ground, because as that started to decompose or break down more, and it could be aged some, then that would heat and provide some natural heating for that, so that you didn't have to have supplemental, or you could start a little bit sooner even, but have that down in the bottom layer, help provide some heat. and then you could plant in there earlier. And then, of course, with the glass or the plastic top on there, so it becomes like a greenhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be another form of an earlier form that we've used for decades and decades to get things started sooner.
Generations of people have been digging holes in their yards in the middle of winter to grow their gardens early.
That's right.
Okay. Anything coming up we need to know about? Programs of any sort? You're good?
Oh, we're moving into the growing seasons.
Yeah.
So
program time is over. You should have learned everything in January and February.
Yeah, December, January, February, and early March, and now it's time to go to work.
There you go. Well, get to work then. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, AM 1160 and 101.1 FM. We're 3 minutes away from the top of the hour. It's the voice of Indiana County, WCCS. Bob is going to be back with us next week, and we have no idea what's going to be going on next week because we've got all kinds of other issues. Like, for instance, the IEP women could be playing an NCAA championship game next week on Friday, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be.
We might invite you to come out, and we'll do the program from out there in Columbus. How's that sound?
There you go. We'll go on a road trip.
Yeah, there you go.